we're going to show you how to turn this food waste into this black gold, next on Now You Know. We're all pretty familiar with regular composting. It's a bin or a pile where you dump leaves and other plant matter, and then you wait and you wait and you wait until someday, up to a year later, you get compost for your garden. Vermicomposting is radically different. It's like supercharging your compost. Vermicomposting is when you have worms helping to break down your food waste. They're like little food composting robots. Just set it and forget it. We started vermicomposting over a year ago, and we want to teach you what we've learned. If you made it this far, then you're interested in vermicomposting, but you may be a little apprehensive about some of the negative things you've heard. Well, what we're covering today is this innovative composter called the Worm Factory, which takes a lot of the negativity out of the equation. In traditional vermicomposting systems, the worms are mixed in with the finished compost. So when you go to get your compost out, you have to separate all the worms out, usually by spreading it out on large sheets of plastic and then getting down on your hands and knees and picking out the worms by hand. The Worm Factory simplifies all that by having the worms do all the moving. See, the worms can travel through these holes in the composter, leaving behind a tray of pure compost. And when one tray is filled with scraps, you simply add another one until the bottom is ready to collect the finished compost, which takes us about 2 to 3 months. Now, depending on how much waste you add, you can keep adding to this until you get to be about 8 high. This comes with 3, as you can see here, but you can buy more online, and these cost about $11 each.
So here in New England, composting comes to a freezing halt in the winter.
We have found that our worms eat just about everything you can put in a regular composter and more. The only things you want to steer clear of are things like avocado seeds and peach pits, which take too long. It's also a great way to compost your junk mail and old newspapers.
We highly recommend getting a paper shredder. We got this one off Amazon for about $30. You want to make sure you get the sheet strip kind, so you get these nice little sheets. If you get the crosscut kind, it won't be fluffy. You want nice, fluffy stuff for your worms. So when you get your new Worm Factory, you're gonna get some great instructions, but we're gonna go through some steps real quick right here.
So you can see that we're adding our kitchen scraps and our shredded paper bedding to the first bin. Now we've ordered our 1,000 worms from Amazon, and they were shipped in a priority mailbox, and they come in this little bag. You'll want to get them into your composter as soon as they arrive because they've had a long trip, and you know how you feel after a long trip. So we plop our worms into their new home. Your kit comes with a coconut core bedding. You can use this up if you'd like, but frankly, shredded newspaper works just as well. And we're going to add some of this pumice and gravel that comes with the kit that helps with the worm's digestion, and that's about it. So about once a week, we take our food scraps and add them to the top tray of the Worm Factory. Now, you can do this more often if you'd like. We're just a bit lazy. The veggie scraps are nitrogen rich. So now we add some shredded paper, which is the carbon source that balances out the nitrogen, and the worms seem to love shredded paper. It's helpful to your worms if you chop up your food scraps because it will speed up the process significantly. You can just drop in a whole vegetable that's gone bad if you want, but it will take your worms quite a bit longer to break it down. Okay, so we like to grind up our eggshells and put them into our vermicompost. We use a mortar and pestle to do that. And this is great because the worms love the extra calcium that the eggshells provide. And the little pieces of eggshell actually are useful to the worm in their gullet because they don't have a way to break stuff down that easily. And so they need little bits of material to do that. So just really wash out your eggshells first, let them dry, and then really grind them down well until you get them really small and fine. Like that. The two things coming out of your composter will both be very useful for your garden. The first is affectionately known as compost tea, which on the Worm Factory is easy to collect by turning this spigot. You should do this about once a week to drain off all the excess moisture. This tea is nutrient rich and it contains beneficial microbes that may also reduce or control diseases and improve soil health, and you can pour it right onto your soil. Fruit flies can be a problem. They can largely be eliminated by not composting fruit scraps, especially banana peels, but we eat a lot of bananas, so we do get some fruit flies. You can put out these little cups of apple cider vinegar with plastic wrap over the top, and you poke little holes in the top, and now the flies will go in there and they will drown. So let's talk about the two things that you're going to need to get your vermicomposting started. The first is this worm factory that you're going to get from Amazon, and we'll get you the link down below. It's about $100. The second item you're going to need are 1,000 red wiggler worms, and we'll put the link down below as well. And these take about a week to arrive, and as soon as you get them, you want to put them right to work in your composter. So a couple items that can make your vermicomposting at home a little easier. The first is this 2-gallon waste container that you can put your compost into. What we like about it is that you can put it right in the dishwasher, and it's got these little holes on the top so that air can get in, and it makes everything just a little less smelly, and it keeps your fruit flies at bay. The other item we like a lot are these BioBag compostable compost bags. So you put them in here to line your container, and then at the end of the week you can just pull the whole thing out, plop it into your vermicomposter, and you're done. According to data from the EPA in 2013, 55% of the trash that Americans generate was compostable. Every year, Americans throw away 140 million tons of compost into our landfills and incinerators. Imagine if we composted at home instead. We would eliminate half the trash bags we use, half the landfill space, half the incinerators pollutants, half the trash trucks, half the trash fees, half the trash truck traffic, half the trash barrels, half the gas for the trash trucks, half the trash on our streets, half the rats, half the incinerators, half the landfills. So start vermicomposting today and see what these little guys can do for all of us. Now you know.